It was really scary to become the boss all of a sudden. Like, if you're working on something, please don't obsess with 100% because perfectionism is just not helping you. Hi everyone, welcome to the Empower Sounds podcast. My name is Mahika and today I'm going to share the 10 things I wish I knew before I started my own company. I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of context of who I am and what the company is, just in case you're new here. And then I'm going to tell you everything that I wish I knew because it's been about just over 6 months on this journey and I've learned so much. And this is a video not just for people who want to start their own business, but if you want to start anything, that passion project, that side hustle, that thing that you've always been wanting to do, that creative endeavor, this is for you. And I think it would be really interesting and I'm curious, so please comment down below what your favorite bit of advice was, and if you have any advice as well. If there's any founders, creatives, activists watching, like please comment down your best bits of advice because we can all learn from each other. That's the whole point I created this community. I think that we want to foster a space of learning and of creativity and sharing. So yeah, welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my company. So for context, I came up with the idea for this company around 6 months ago while I was in my final year of university, and I finished uni 2 weeks ago. I was at full-time university in London and in my final year, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my future and my career and stuff. And I had applied for like 100 jobs and it just wasn't working out. It didn't feel aligned. I had created this podcast and this community and I wanted to do something with it because a lot of the women that I have interviewed said that they wanted their own platforms or their own podcasts or their own storytelling campaigns, copywriting, that kind of thing. And through doing this for the past few years, not just with my podcast, but another podcast that I worked on as a producer, I learned so much about what it is to tell a good story and how to create a community and how to evolve with that community. And so I started to think like, oh, this is something I can do. And instead of just promoting the stories of the successful women on my own podcast, like what about making podcasts and platforms for other female founders and charities and B Corps and helping people who want to get their story heard. And so that's how I came up with the idea for my company. So I run a storytelling media agency and I work with female founders, social enterprises, charities, B Corps, and I help them refine their storytelling. That can be for external communication and marketing, so creating podcasts like this one, or creating short form content, or copywriting, or campaigns. It can be for internal communication, so if there's a really big company and they want to get everyone onto message, like creating storytelling narratives around that and making sure everyone on the team is on message. And it can also be in terms of investor communication because only 2% of female founders get funding for their businesses, which is insane. There's more men named David that get funding for their businesses than all women combined. And if you don't know a David, I didn't know a David when I found out this fact. Like, where does that leave the girly pops? So that is why I started my company. And I came up with the idea for the company in October of last year. And I am recording this in June of the next year. And then I basically just went on this journey of let me explore starting this. And it's crazy because, like I said, I applied for like 100 jobs and it just wasn't working out. And as soon as I decided to pour all that energy into my project, doors just started opening out of nowhere. And don't get me wrong, like entrepreneurship is not easy, but it's really fun. And I felt like I was swimming with the current and there's definitely things that I wish I would have known sooner. So this is for a younger version of me, for you guys, so you can learn from my mistakes because some of them were just like costly in terms of time, energy, happiness, and I don't want that for you. So with my agency, I launched it officially in March. And if there are any female founders or charities or B Corps or anyone who wants to refine their storytelling that's interested, I'm going to leave all the information in the description. So please check it out and reach out to me. I'd love to help you and collaborate. But let's get on to the advice. So my first advice is the 70% rule. I think this is not just applicable to business and to entrepreneurship, but also just to life and to your studies, your work, your literally anything that you're making or working on or producing, this rule applies. So I came up with this idea because it reminds me of like the university system. And if you're not from the UK, basically the way that it works is we have like tiers, and like the first class top tier is 70% and above. And when you come from high school, that's a bit of an adjustment because in school, like 100% is 100%. So you kind of aim for as close to 100 as possible. And I remember moving to university and writing my essays, and I study geography. So it's like writing essays and doing research and case studies and all this stuff. And conversations around grades, and they were a lot lower than you would get at high school. And it was a bit of an adjustment. And I was like, why are they gatekeeping the higher grades? Why is 70% this new like thing to aspire to? But actually, when I think about some of the best bits of work I did at university, it was when I stopped thinking about getting 100%. And I was like, I'm just going to focus on making this to 70% of my ability. And then I can work on refining and editing it. Because sometimes perfectionism is the enemy of something really good. And sometimes when we start with this thing of, oh, it has to be 100%, you're never going to get started. The days that I was like, oh, I need to get 100% on this piece of work for university or with my business, I procrastinated it for weeks, sometimes months. And it's so much easier to make something good and then edit it and make it better and better and better than trying to make like a masterpiece from zero. It's just like unrealistic. Also, you get to grow with your community. And if you're creating a business, this is the whole idea of like the MVP and the minimal viable product. So just make something, like don't make something bad, but it doesn't have to be perfect either. So just ask yourself, is this 70% to my ability? Would I give myself a first class for this? And if the answer is yeah, like you're ready. And you can go from 70 to 80 to 90 on the journey. Like you can get going and then get good while you're going. And I have that with my podcast because this podcast I started back in the summer of 2023. So it's almost 2 years now, which is insane. And I started it on Zoom in my bedroom, not really knowing how to use editing software. And now I'm in a studio and there's learning challenges that come up every day. Some of the episodes have had like technical issues. I didn't realize how to format an SD card. One time there was an issue with the microphones. And if I would have waited to learn how to use every bit of equipment perfectly and get into the studio, maybe I wouldn't have a podcast, because it's hard to, like I said, reach the peak of the mountain before you even start climbing. So this is my first bit of advice. Just focus on getting that 70% and then you're done. You're ready. Don't obsess with 100% because perfectionism is just not helping you. It's not helping you. And 70% is good enough. Like that's the reason why it's first class. So think about how that applies to your life and your business and your work and even like your relationships. No person is going to make you happy 100% of the time, but as long as it's a net positive, like that's really, really what's important. Okay, my next bit of advice, I'm looking through my notes, is this links to the 70% rule. So I'm 21 and going from full-time education and starting my own company while still at university, I've kind of been told what to do my whole life, like from parents, from teachers, and there's always been someone kind of giving me instructions, and I'm pretty good at like listening and being told what to do. And so it was really scary to become the boss all of a sudden. And I love it. I really, really love it. And I think I take a lot of pride in just like making the goals, making the roadmap and the vision and the mission and the strategy, and then just doing it. But it was scary. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, who also worked for himself. And I was like, how do you deal with the skill gap? Because you come into a role where you're all of a sudden like a 6 out of 10 at lots of different things, and you don't know how to do many things, and it creates all this imposter syndrome, and you don't know what to do, and it's just really scary. Like, how do you address the fact that you need to be better at a lot of the things that you're doing to be able to do a good job? And he said that there's 2 options. You can learn or you can wait. And he was like, which one do you want to do? And this links back to what I was saying about the 70% rule. You can learn while you're on the journey. Like you can start and you can keep learning. You don't have to learn everything before you start. There are still things that I am learning today, and my company launched 2 months ago. And I'm going to keep learning. And my goal is to just keep learning. Like I hope that I keep doing this in a few years' time and I still have things that are new, that are challenging, that are out of my comfort zone, because that's the whole point. Like in life, you either learn or you wait, and which one are you going to do? And I think it's so much easier. Like the one skill I think everyone should take time out of their day and life to learn is how do they learn? Because everyone has different learning styles. You have kinesthetic, which is like doing things and like working with your hands and all this stuff. You have visual, you have auditory. There's different other types of learning styles. And if you're neurodivergent, like I have dyspraxia and I have ADHD, so it's difficult for me to learn things in the way that they're taught in high school. I, for example, taught myself Spanish from zero and I'm fluent now, but I did French in high school for 7 years and I cannot speak French. And so it's not about being smart or dumb or not being good at something or finding something really difficult. It's about, do you know how to learn something in a way that works for you? So I think learn or wait. And actually, one of the most important things that you will do in your learning journey is learning how to learn. And that is so unique to you. And also when you have a team, like learning how to teach as well is very, very important, because you can't just use a blanket approach for every single person. Like everyone responds to different strategies and different ways of communication and instruction. And so, yeah. Are you going to learn or are you going to wait? And if you're watching to this point, I really would love for you guys to comment what's something that you want to learn. Like what's one skill that you want to learn by the end of this year? And we can learn together. For me, I want to learn more about technical production because I'm now a producer. I want to learn Portuguese because I'm working on a project where there is Portuguese involved and I think it's really exciting. And I want to learn to become a better runner. So I'm investing in those different skills. And it's a really, really important and fun part of my day. And it's about making the learning fun rather than scary. Because when you know how to learn, then it's not just a slog and like swimming against the current. So please, 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 like you're not dumb. You're not dumb. You're not incapable. You just don't know how to teach yourself something. So go learn how to teach yourself something. Okay, next bit of advice. Yes, this links on to the learning thing. Not everything is going to be relevant to you. We have so much information bombarded at us all the time. And there's so many things. And I think when you are a passionate and ambitious person, which I'm assuming you are if you're watching this, you get excited by a lot of things and you want to do everything and you want to learn every skill and you want to try everything and you want to master everything. And you can have it all, but not all at once. And not everything is going to be relevant to you. And learning how to filter out the stuff that is not relevant to you is one of the most important skills. I think that comes second to learning how to learn. And I'm going to give you the example for me. So I'm in the entrepreneurship space all of a sudden, and there's a lot of companies that I work with because I'm in this like cohort of founders or work alongside, let's say, who are very technical companies. And my company is technical in the side of hardware and production, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know a lot about like coding and software and all those things, which is something that's really, really fashionable. Also, with entrepreneurship, there's this whole conversation around fundraising, and the way that I have structured my company, that's not something I want to do at this point. And so initially I was learning all of the stuff around VC pitching and investor comms and stuff, which is important for my clients. But I started to realize that it's taking up a lot of my energy, and I think it would be better for me to focus on getting clients for my company and learning how to be better at sales and learning how to be better at marketing and communication, because I run a communication agency. And we have a finite amount of energy. And energy, they say time is our most limited resource. And I agree. But I think energy comes second. And so knowing where to invest your energy and where to focus, what skills to learn is so important. They say like most startups fail. And I don't think that's because people are dumb or not passionate. It's because of a lack of focus. And so for me, I had to think about like, what is a priority for me right now? And you can like a lot of things, but there's a difference between liking something and choosing it, or loving something and choosing it. And you can find something really fun, but it cannot be a priority for you right now. And I think we go through different seasons of life. So knowing exactly like what is your priority and where do you want to invest your energy, and what information is relevant to you is so, so, so important. I'm not saying be closed off from learning opportunities if you don't think they're directly relevant, because you can be surprised. And sometimes the most random bits of information come in useful, but focus. Focus is so important. And it's something that I struggle with because I get excited by so many things. I'm so passionate about so many different things, but almost like ranking them of like, okay, these are my top priorities. This needs to be done on a given day, every week. These are the things that I make time for. These are my habits. And then if I have extra time and energy, then the fun stuff comes in as well. But yeah, knowing exactly what's relevant for you. And I can't tell you what that is, because that will depend on who you are and your company or your work or your life or whatever the circumstance is. So you need to make a cup of tea or a coffee or a matcha or whatever your prerogative is, and sit down and journal what is the stuff that is if you think of dominoes, what is the first domino for me? And just focus on that first domino, and the rest of the dominoes will fall with momentum. Okay, next bit of advice. Again, this links to learning. My fourth thing is learn to be coachable. So I think being coachable is one of the most important skills, because entrepreneurship is pretty low. I'm not going to say entrepreneurship is lonely, but it can be, especially if you're doing your own thing. Like, I run my company myself, and I'm starting to build some semblance of a team and have freelancers and subcontractors and all this kind of stuff, clients. But at the end of the day, it is lonely if you don't go out of your way to make a system of support and accountability. And I'm really lucky that I'm part of this incubator at my university, which means that I have like a group of founders who I work alongside, and we have mentors. And one of the things that have come from that is I have had some really amazing mentors, and I would not have started my company if I didn't have the mentorship that I did, because there's just so many cool people I've met along the way who've given me inspiration or advice. And I think knowing that you're not going to know everything, and you don't have to know everything. And what I said about learn or wait, I think there's a third category of like learn, wait, and delegate or like communicate with other people in your community, because you're not going to know how to do everything. So learning how to be coached is so important. And again, knowing how you learn is so important in being coachable as well, because you need to know, like I did the session yesterday, it was so interesting, on like what is your feedback style and what is your recognition style. So knowing how do I take feedback from certain people. And you might see this if you have had someone in your family try and teach you something and it's not gone well. Like me and my mum, we get on really, really well, and I love her. But she tried to teach me to cook when I was a bit younger, and it just did not work, because I don't think we have the same learning style and teaching style, and we didn't communicate that. And so again, like being coachable and finding good mentors, because not everyone should mentor you, and you should take advice from people who have experience in the outcome that you want, because taking advice from everyone is just it's confusing. And that links on to my next bit of advice, which is you have to learn to decide what advice to take. So you can watch this video and think, oh my God, interesting points of view, but what she's saying is not relevant to me at all. And I would not take offense by that. And it's actually, I'd be happy if you said that, because it would signal that you know what is relevant advice to you. And a few months ago, I just thought that everyone who was a little bit more successful than me or was a few steps ahead of me in whatever field was better. I don't want to say better, but like just knew what they were talking about. And so I would just take on all advice. And I was like, oh, it's important to learn. It's so important to be the dumbest person in the room and all this stuff. And while that is true, at the same time, not every bit of advice is going to be relevant to you. Some of it will be for people who are way too far ahead of you in your journey, or not going the same way that you want to go, or don't share the same values as you. And that's okay. Like learning to take on advice and listen to it and register it and be appreciative of it, but still decide to do something else is also a skill. So initially when someone would give me advice I didn't agree with, I would just kind of try and defend my point of view really quickly. And I think it's something that I've had to learn to take a pause. And so sometimes if someone gives you a piece of advice, you don't agree with it, just take a pause in your head, just count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just say, thank you, that's so interesting. I will look into it. I will take it under consideration. And actually, sometimes when we give ourselves the pressure of having to react immediately or respond immediately, we don't respond to the best of our ability. Like, I've had some advice been given to me that didn't feel relevant. And I went back and I reflected on it. And I was like, actually, some parts of this advice is useful, not everything. And I went back and I had a meeting with that same person. And I was like, I really like that you said this. And this is why I've decided to implement it. On the other hand, this other bit doesn't resonate and I've decided to do something else. And I think that's like a really constructive way of dealing with it. But you only develop that skill if you learn to pause. If you learn to pause and you learn to listen to your opinion. And I think this comes easier for some people than others. I struggle with this. I struggle to pause because I find that talking out loud helps me process information, and I like to think really quickly, respond really quickly, but actually there is so much power in the pause. You're allowed to take up space, you're allowed to take time. And I've seen that a lot of women, especially, they feel like they need to respond immediately so that they can retain their like space in the conversation. But no, you actually create more space for yourself when you take a pause. So take a pause. And if you are early on in your journey and you don't know what you think about a situation, because I had that like last year, forget work, like for life, I would just ask everyone, what should I post on Instagram? What do we think about this situation? I had this argument with this friend. What do you think about this? And it just meant that I didn't know what my opinion was on a lot of things. And I just kind of took the opinion of people that I trusted and loved, which is important. I think it's important to have your like board of advisors in your life and in your business. But at the same time, you have to be chairwoman of this board. And in order to do that, you need silence. And silence is scary. If you're a yapper, like I'm a yapper, silence is scary, but it's okay. So you need to take some time for silence to register what you think about a situation. Go and journal about it. Just have some time to think and feel. And it's okay. You can take your time. You don't have to respond immediately. Don't have to react immediately. Actually, the better decisions come when you don't respond and react immediately. And learning to take advice, to register it, and then to elegantly decline it is a skill. And I'm curious, again, if you're still watching, like comment down below what's one piece of advice that you're glad that you didn't listen to. For me, it was, I'm glad I didn't listen to the advice of not starting with the focus on female founders, because I think there've been so many beautiful opportunities coming around that. And I don't just work with women, but focusing on female founders meant that like I started with a niche on like specific types of storytelling and clients, and it really helped have the snowball effect. And so I'm glad that I didn't listen to that advice at that point of my life and my business. But who knows, maybe in like a year's time, I'm going to open up and I'm going to also work with different mixed founder teams and stuff. So yeah, that is advice number 5. The next bit of advice, according to my notes, is building self-trust. This is so important, especially if you are a solo founder, because the buck ends with you. The buck ends with you. You have to build self-trust because there's no one, well, you should develop systems of accountability and have friends and family and peers and colleagues to keep you accountable as well. But at the same time, like, how are your clients going to trust you? How is your team going to trust you if you don't trust yourself? And that links to what I just said around decision making and learning to trust your instinct with decisions. And if you can't hear that instinct, then learning to take time to listen to that instinct. But also self-trust is about saying that you will do something and then following through. If you're one of those people that is super multi-passionate and likes a lot of things and you commit to a lot of things and then you don't do them, that sends a signal to your brain that you don't follow through. and that maybe you can't trust yourself and that you're a flaky person. If you say that you're going to go to the gym and then every time you wake up and you're like, no, then like that's sending a bad signal to your brain. And this is not about the gym, like whatever it is. And so my advice to build self-trust is start with something so small that it's basically impossible for you to fail at doing it. Like you can literally start by just saying, every morning I am going to make my bed. And you do it. And then you build up by doing harder, more time-intensive skills, things that are more important to you. And by building that self-trust, it improves your relationships with your team, with your, if you have investors, with your relationships, your partners, your friends. Like, also, if you trust yourself, I feel like you're more trusting of other people because you know what it's like to have integrity. And integrity is not just about, integrity is who are you when people aren't watching. And I think that is like the biggest element of self-trust. If you trust that you follow through, you trust that other people follow through, and you're not just constantly anxiously nagging people, which I think can be very, very, very draining. And so learning how to build self-trust is so important. And my advice is silence. Start small and follow through with your promises. Don't flake on yourself. I think it's so rude to flake on yourself. So don't flake on yourself. And it's not nice. You're not being nice to yourself. I think, yeah, okay, the nice way to go about it, if, for example, with the gym, you don't want to go, is go and do something else. Like go on a walk. If you're too tired to go to the gym, go on a walk or do like a 5-minute yoga in your bedroom or whatever it is. But like, don't just skip the action because you can't be bothered, because it will compound over time and it will make you a version of yourself that you don't like. Okay, next bit of advice. Community is everything. Community is everything. And I want to take this moment to thank you for being part of that community for me. And thank you for supporting me and watching this podcast or listening to it. And I want to thank all my lovely friends and family and clients and team for being part of my community. And I think they say like it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to create a company as well. And it's the same with if you're a solo founder and if you don't have a team, like you need that system of support to keep you going and to ask you like if you're okay and to make sure that you're not overworking yourself. And I think finding a group of people who are also working on something that they're super passionate about and you can do it together is one of the most beautiful things ever. It is so important. And community is such a buzzword these days because people are just like, oh, community this, community that, join this community, join that community. I don't mean just like joining community for a community's sake, but actually one of the most important things you can do in this life is cultivate a powerful community that aligns with you. Find people who resonate with your values and who are supporting you on your mission and you want to cheerlead them on theirs. And that takes effort. That takes learning about people and knowing what makes them feel appreciated and cared about and communicating with them. Like, I am a founder and I am really, really busy a lot of the time. And I'm learning to become better at this because I struggle with this. But communicating with my friends and family when I am just not quick at responding to things and making them feel appreciated. But I know that I will show up for them if it's someone's birthday or a big like celebration, like sending them flowers, making them feel special, and learning how to make other people in your life feel appreciated. I think sometimes we spend a lot of energy in thinking, how can I receive love from other people? But learning to be more giving and asking yourself, like, how can I make the people in my life feel appreciated and cared about is so important. And at the same time, please don't be a people pleaser. I know it's hard. I know that like you just want to make people happy if you're a people pleaser, and that's okay. There is nothing wrong with wanting to make people happy and wanting to please people. But if you're pleasing people at the expense of your sanity, then that's not organic and like a wholesome community. You want people who put themselves first, who take care. You want people in your community who put themselves first, who take care of themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and then they show up for you. and you do the same, and you're like better together. And part of that is like knowing what you're attracted to and what you're allergic to in people. Like for me, I am attracted to people who are curious about life and about things. If I tell someone that I like learning and they're like, oh, that's so weird, you're such a nerd, I'm sorry, like, I'm sure you're a lovely person, but I don't think that we're aligned. I don't think we're going to be in this community together. If you say like, oh, I'm not really interested about the world around me, I'm sorry, you're probably a lovely person, but maybe it's not the best fit. On the other hand, if someone is working towards learning more and creating something and like wants to make themselves and the world a slightly better place, then yeah, like that's something that's really important. And in the past, I feel like I was a little bit of a chameleon, and I would try and like balance and adapt to the energy of a group to fit in. And I think there's nothing wrong with fitting in. But at the same time, now I'm a little bit more unapologetically myself, and I just say like, this is me, I'm super passionate, I do all these things. And yeah, like sometimes that generates a little bit of a Marmite response where people are like, oh, like, why are you doing the most? Why are you doing all these things? But at the same time, when I tell you, it's created the most beautiful community, because when you are the most, you magnetize people, and magnets, they attract, but they also repel. So if you want a strong community, you have to be okay with the fact that you're going to repel the people that don't align with you. But it's okay, because you're going to attract the people who support you, who are there for you, who are looking out for themselves as well, and who resonate with you, which is so, so, so important. And if you don't have that, come join this community. Come subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, follow if you're watching on Spotify, follow the account on Instagram, reach out. Like if you're working on something, please, 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 I'd love to be part of that. Reach out. Like we're all about supporting each other, and you can be part of this community. So there's always, always, always room and strength in community. Okay, next bit of advice. So my next bit of advice is around failure, and failure gets a bad rep. In my opinion, failure is not the opposite of success, but it's actually a symptom of success, because if you try stuff, inevitably you are going to flop and fail. You're not going to be perfect at everything. And especially if you listen to my earlier advice around getting going and then getting good, you are going to flop. You are going to flop. And it's okay. The important thing is, what do you do with that information? Because a flop is only a failure if you internalize the flop and you make it about your self-worth, and you say, oh, I had this failure, I had this flop, which means that I'm unworthy and I shouldn't do this and I should quit. Or you don't learn from it. You're like, oh, why does this always happen to me? I guess I'm always going to be like this. If you have a flop, but you have a growth mindset, you're like, this is an opportunity. I learned something from this. Was this embarrassing? Yeah. Does it mean anything about my sense of self-worth? No. It's just something that happened. It's just something that happened, and you're allowed to feel bad around it. I'm going to give you some examples of my flops, because, oh my God, there've been so many, but I have learned so much from those flops, and you know that I'm never going to make those mistakes again. Silly one. Like I said, I didn't know that you have to format SD cards. So I had an interview on this podcast with this person who I really, really respect. And we had like an hour-long conversation. The camera didn't record any of it. Imagine making someone take time out of their day, come all the way to your studio, have an hour-long conversation with you, and then it just didn't record. It was so embarrassing. It was such a big flop. But now you know that I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to leave my SD cards unformatted. And it also taught me around how to communicate that with the other person. And she was lovely. And it was Arta. So if you've listened to that episode, shout out to you. And I will link it down below as well. Go listen to it, because we did take 2. And she just said to me, it's okay, next time will be better. And learning to not go into like a self-deprecating spiral when you flop and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm the worst. But just being like, hey, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Like, let me make it up to you. Let's try again. Is such an important skill. Other failures and flops. Oh my God. I had so many issues trying to get my business bank account. Like, I was arguing with the Revolut chatbot for a month, and it was a whole thing. During my launch party, I was giving a speech and I knocked an entire bottle of water on the floor. No one cared. This is another thing about flops. No one cares. Sometimes if you're on a one-to-one basis, like with the example of the interview, the other person will care, because of the inconvenience you've caused them. But if you do it in a respectful way, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And in terms of if you flop publicly and it's embarrassing, I think sometimes people are scared of putting themselves out there because they're scared that they're going to make a fool of themselves. And what? If I was preoccupied with not making a fool of myself, I wouldn't have started a podcast. I wouldn't have started a company. And I wouldn't have had some of the best opportunities, like some of the most fun memories of my life. And so it's okay. Just like get over the fear of being embarrassing and accept that you are going to be embarrassing to some people, but most people don't care. Most people literally just simply don't care. And flopping is going to be part of your journey. And if you're not flopping, then maybe you're not learning enough. And maybe you're not pushing yourself hard enough. At the same time, don't seek out failure. Like, that's not the goal either. But if it happens, like, don't take it personally. It's not about your self-worth. It's just a symptom of life. And learning how to stand up quickly and just move on with your life is so important. So yeah, if anyone's feeling brave, I'd love to hear some of your flops. Please comment. This links to the opposite side of flops for my next bit of advice, and it's talking about big milestones. So big milestones are really exciting, and sometimes when we start a company or when we start a big project, we are driven by these big milestones, like, oh, I want to get onto Forbes 30 Under 30, for example, or I want to get like this big deal, or I want to get all of the stuff. And as someone who is very lucky to have had some of these milestones so far, like I pitched my business to Chanel, I won some funding at a competition for the company, I got into this incubator, I pitched at Google, I got my first client. These are huge milestones, and it's so important to celebrate them and have something that you're working towards and looking forward to. But at the same time, once the milestone happens, life just continues as normal. Like, you will wake up the next day and life will just continue as normal. And so, like, realizing that you have to enjoy the day-to-day as well and bring something into that, because that is going to be 95% of your time. The day-to-day, the boring, the admin, the working with clients or working with customers or dealing with your team or dealing with manufacturers, depending on what your business is. Or if you're not watching from a business perspective, like just your job and your work, like 95% of life is just the day-to-day. And learning to romanticize that makes it more fun. But if you live for the milestones, it's just exhausting, because you have these huge peaks of like, oh my God, this was an amazing day. I learned so much. This was amazing. I really enjoyed it. And then the next day you have this like massive like emotional hangover of, yeah, like this is back to normal, I guess. And what's the next milestone? And again, it's important to have milestones and have something that you're working towards. But like, the milestones is what you see on social media. And so if you see like on LinkedIn or on Instagram or whatever social platform you use, all the people around you are having all these crazy milestones, that's not their day-to-day either. They also have to respond to emails. They also have to do all the boring stuff that you are sitting there and doing whilst you're envying them. And they only got to the milestones because they did all the behind the scenes work as well. So the behind the scenes work is very important too. And learning to romanticize and enjoy that, like, yeah, okay, there's a limit to how much you can enjoy emails and that kind of stuff. But like knowing, again, not just what type of learner are you, but what type of worker are you, to try and bring fun into the process of doing your work, because how else are you going to show up? So yeah, 95% rule. My last bit of advice is detachment. So I think detachment is one of these buzzwords as well, because what does that even mean? Like, when people started talking about detachment and I first learned about it, I was like, what does that mean? I don't like this concept, because I feel like I'm a pretty ambitious person, and when I get something in my mind that I want to do, it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. And so what do you mean detachment? What do you mean like removing the desire? And detachment is not about removing the desire. It's about knowing that, one, you're going to be okay with or without it. Like, whatever the milestone is, whatever the job is, the role is, the client, the recognition, you're going to be okay with or without it. And if you don't get it, rejection is not about worth. Rejection is not about worth, it's about alignment. And if you didn't get it, maybe it wasn't the right time. Like, I'm going to tell you this example from my incubator that I'm now part of. I applied to the incubator 6 months before I actually got in. And I had a meeting with one of the advisors, and I had actually pitched a different company that I was going to do. And he said to me, I really like you. I really like your podcast. I like your community, but maybe this idea is not the best fit for you. And he was like, you can do it if you still want to, but think about it. And I thought about it, and it was one of those times where I decided to take his feedback on, and I brainstormed, and that's how I came up with this idea for the storytelling media agency that I run, which is so much more aligned with my skills, my community, my expertise, and what I want to do, what I want my life to look like. And in that time, because I missed the deadline, I did a program on like how to develop your business idea. And then I did another program where I got business coaching. And then I used all of those resources and support to launch my own company. And I made all these friends who came to my company launch. And then I applied again last month. And I ended up applying and getting in. And like, just through some fate, one of my really good friends from high school got in. One of my other really good friends from like the founder space got in. Someone that I know from university got in. And I ended up joining this cohort like of people that I really like, respect and like. I joined at a time where I had already launched my company and I was going in with momentum and a clear roadmap of what's ahead. I was going in at a time where I finished university, because literally the second that I got my acceptance into this cohort, I submitted my last essay. Like, I was submitting my last essay for university, doing the Turnitin submission link, if you know, you know. And I got an email being like, you have been accepted into this cohort. And it just felt like alignment. And so that's what I mean by detachment. If something is not working for you, it is not because you are unworthy or because your idea is bad or because you are a failure or because you're never going to succeed. Life is either taking you on the scenic route, aligning you to something that is more like a better fit for you, aligning you to something that is resonates with you a little. Honestly, those are the two main options. I was going to give you a third option, but like, life is not out to get you. So if it's not working, it's because you're going on the scenic route and you need to make some more stops before you get to set destination, or because set destination is not the best destination for you and you're meant to go somewhere else. And I truly, truly, truly believe that. And I have hundreds of stories related to that. So if you want to know more about that, let me know and I can make another podcast about this. But those are the most important things that I've learned on my journey so far. And I'd love to make this in a year's time and talk a little bit more about my business as it grows and as I grow as a founder as well. But my business is so young. So these are more generic and general bits of advice that I think apply not just for founders, but for people. And I really, really, really hope that this resonated and helped you. Thank you for your time. And also, so I decided to make this episode as a season finale. This is the end of season 3. We started with 14 episodes of season 1, and this is season 3. And I decided to kind of end the season with 14 episodes to take some time to reflect on what the next season should bring. So please, please, please comment down below what you want to see in the next season. Who, like, if you could sit down with any expert in any field and have like coaching, who would you want to hear from? Because we can get them on the podcast. I can try and do some research around that. What do you want to know more about? What are you interested in? Please let me know, because I'm going to take a 6-ish week break to plan the next season and to come back better and stronger for you guys. So let me know what you want to hear, what you want to know. And yeah, let's design season 4 together. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next season. And I hope you guys have an incredible summer. Let me know what you want. And yeah, until the next season. Bye, guys.